Right, a lot of people have asked for this, so here it is. Here is my walkthrough about how I and why I cut up STLs for printing on an FDM printer and not just plonk on the bits that you get from your STL provider of choice. So first off, I use Blender because it's free. It's extremely powerful and as good as any of the 3D programs available to mankind. A few things you might need to know. If I press N, you can see the screen capture. I don't know why there's a big black bar there, but you want to make sure that you've got this thing here called boolean, but it's not called boolean. If you go over to Edit, Preferences, Search Extensions for Bool tool, make sure that is installed. It's already installed. If it isn't, you can just click it and it will install for you. It comes downloaded. It comes pre-downloaded with Blender. You just need to activate it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to import an STL that I've not seen before, and I'm going to sort of do a bit of a live, as it happens, diary of my thought process and what I would change to get some of the parts printed. And the STL I decided to download is the Spider-Man Gwen Stacy diorama from Wicked. These STLs from Wicked are intended for resin printing, which is great, but if you haven't got a resin printer or you just prefer FDM printers, but you still want to print big dioramas and figurines like this, then all is not lost. Okay, so let's get it imported. Just go up to File, Import, STL. Right. As you can see, everything's come in one big jumble, which is fine, no problem at all. What also you might see is that the center of focus or rotation of these objects is way off here, which tends to be the case. It's no issue. If you can't see these axes command sort of grabbers, just go up to the top here, this little arrow thing, and just make sure you've got the move on if you want it. Otherwise, you have to go like G and then Z to move. So G is to move it. I presume it means grab. So, but I do like using these. But as you'll see, it's if I rotate on the Z axis, RZ, it's going to go around that point. So you want to bring this point of focus into the middle of the object that you're selected. So selecting everything, just click and drag. Make sure that you've got the select box selected. That helps out. And then once all the bits are selected, so all their points of focus are here, right click, set origin to geometry. And then each one now has the point of rotation, point of focus, so rotate Z into the middle of its center of gravity sort of things. So let's have a look at all this. Closer look at this guy. So if you're kind of not orbiting around an object when you hold down the mouse button and rotate, that's, well, not quite orbiting around that. If you press, and this is where you need an extended keyboard, the dot, then full stop on the keypad, then you will focus on the point of focus of the object. Now this arm isn't too bad. What I would probably do is print directly with this part flat to the build plate. It's got some undulations. It's not perfectly flat, but I think you would probably get away with that. It'd be really handy if these were, if objects were cut with flat edges to help print on FDM, but it's not the end of the world. This guy, yeah, you could, and I have done this in the past, is print with this bit touching the build plate. This would make this section stringy and full of support marks and stuff, but hopefully by the time it starts printing here, all this would print up vertically quite nicely. So for instance, like rotate on the Y, rotate. Let's have a look at it. So R, and then rotate on the X axis, RX. So, well, here's the thing to consider. Let's just move this out so I can just see it a little bit clearer. You can press the full stop key on the numpad. This bit, if you're printing from that contact point on the build plate, it's not great. So I want to see if rotate X or rotate Y just to get that, and then rotate X again to get that flat. And then I press 3, by the way, to go to the right hand side view, 1 to go to the front, So slightly off, so slightly not aligned at the bottom, so rotate Y, so R, Y. Right, if that was the contact point, this is obviously grow up here, so just got to check. You'd have all your supports here, which would make this a bit of a mess, but hopefully these edges would be in good nick. And then if this printed all the way up like that, I think you wouldn't have too much of an issue with that printing. The only issue you would have is if the supports, making sure they're strong enough for this, not for the weight of this to not topple over or get knocked over. So I would potentially be tempted to, if I go press number 1, sorry, I'm going to edit out some of the thinking time. So if it does seem like I'm jumping around, I don't want to just show the bits when I'm just thinking, scratching my head and not saying anything. So if I press 1 for the front, rotate on the Y-axis, which is the kind of one pointing towards us. Oops. It helps if I select the object first. Rotate Y, and then you could potentially cut along here. So you've got a nice flat spot, because you're really taking a bit of the peg out. The peg's still got to work. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so what I did there's this little icon here. If I press Shift A to add something, say a mesh or a sphere, it always appears where you put that. So sometimes it could be off screen. So if you hold Shift and right click, and I always click an object because it sort of hits the object. I'm just going to add a cube here. STLs in Blender come in at 10 times the size. So this object, for instance, you can see it if you go to item. It says it's 67 meters by 68 meters. So that's 100 times the size. Box is 2 meters by 2 meters, so we just need to scale it up to cover what we want it to cover. Just trying to get this so that we've got a big contact area with the build plate. This isn't leaning too much. I'm going to rotate it to the right a little bit just to get this corner covered off. And then zoom in a little bit. If you can't see a little widget, the movement widget here, you press, remember, you can press G and Z. So I wanted to move it. If you hold down, if you just move your mouse up and down, it's quite sensitive. But if you hold down Shift, it'll scale the movement down. So I reckon you could just get that little corner to touch as well. Right. So this bit's quite easy. You can tell, obviously, that this bit is within the square. You can zoom into the square and you can see what's getting cut. There we go. Then you just want to cut that bit off. And because it would be good to print it there and see how that goes. You're going to do something called a boolean, which you can do with a modifier here, and you can add a generator and boolean. But the bool tool is more useful, actually. It just does it quicker, I think. You can take things away from one object to another. You can merge objects in different ways. They're completely or just the parts that overlap, or you can slice, so it just it deletes the parts that are overlapping. With a little bit of playing about with it, you'll see the difference. You'll know which ones to use. So what you want to do is the first object you select is the cutter. The second object is the thing to be cut. So I want to just simply cut off the bit that's in the cube. That easy. So you just go difference. There we go. I reckon that could print better than trying to do it on more of an angle, but you've still got the peg. Right, so another bit. Let's have a look. Let's move these parts away to see. That looks painful doing the splits like that. Right, so his leg's weird. With the seam is just, for his boot, is just below his knee, so we've got this bent knee in place. So we could find it tricky to print just flat. Say, rotate Y, rotate Z a little bit. Press 1 for front view to sort of print like this, because you're not really getting any real contact area, and everything here is just going to be supported in midair. So it could be tricky. that could work, but I think you're going to get this contact area here and all the support areas there pretty bad. What I'm looking for, I'm looking at these seams in the texture of this suit to see if there's anywhere you can put a cut, a straight cut that would get hidden. And I wonder if it would be okay in here through his groinal area. So I wonder if that would be fine. So let's just get him out over here. Just press 7 to go over the top. Just going to get him more nicely aligned. Rotate Z. It's always easier to get them sort of aligned to the axes that you're sort of working with. I'm wondering if cut that way, so through his groin. So because I'm thinking what's going to be not as noticeable. So Shift right click to bring the cursor over here just for ease. Shift A to add a cube. Now there is another way of doing this actually, I'm going to show you, but I prefer not to do it this way. So you can Shift A, add a plane. If I scale that up, you'll see you just get this square, which is absolutely fine. But if I press 1, you can't see it if I deselect it because it has 0 thickness. And you have to have a thickness in order to slice something together. So I will do this with a plane, though, just for the experience. So rotate Y, because we want to get this vertical. Maybe there, maybe rotate on the Y-axis a bit. Couldn't put that right into his groin. And rotate this. So we want to cut through this little groove here. So rotate on the vertical, which is Z, somewhere like that. One thing is good as well is make sure nothing's poking through weirdly. So that was just catching some of this bit here that we don't want to break. And what we can do then, select that object, select this. If you try difference, it just cuts away just one part and doesn't leave the other part. So with the plane, what we can do is select the plane. That is the thing that's going to do the cutting. That is the knife, and then the object you want to cut, and you can go slice. With Blender as well, if it's not doing anything, you click and it's doing this blue thing and you think it's hanging, leave it. So often it comes back and doesn't crash and just works itself out. So you get 2 separate pieces, but alignment might be an issue. So if I just undo but keep the cut, if I press H on that guy to hide it, I'm going to add some kind of connector. Shift A, just a cube, scale it up a little bit, and it seems sensible. I'm going to scale it on the X. So you want to press Shift D, that's duplicated it. If you look at the top right, I can't do it because my mouse will move the object. You'll see that there's now cube 001 up in the top right. If I press Escape, it will just set it on top of where the original was. So now we have, if I just hide this chat, switch off X-ray mode and move, you now got 2 exactly the same shapes. But obviously the hole for the peg needs to be bigger than the peg itself, so we just need to scale it. So we go up to scale, to item, scale. If you see all these weird numbers, it's because we've stretched it. And then if you notice me just stretching it around earlier, what you want to do is press Control A to apply scale. This resets everything to 1 or 100%. So if I were to go 1.02, and then if you watch the square, when I press enter, it's gone slightly bigger. So that's going to hopefully give you plenty of room. You can see the tolerance there. So be too big. This is going to be a bit trial and error, so 1.01. You can see the original cube just inside. The issue is, if I merely added a peg to go into the hole I create on this side, then you're going to ruin this flat contact point. So what I'm going to do is make a hole in both parts, and then you can print a connected dowel separately. So I'll just undo that. So what that means is I'm just going to hide the leg and hide that leg. So I've just got the cubes. We actually need two of the larger cube, one to take away from the right side and one to take away from the left side. So we got two holes. So I'm just going to press Shift D to duplicate that. Then just click anywhere and you'll see that it's duplicated it right over. Just press Ctrl Z to undo. I'm going to press Alt H to bring back anything I've hidden. And then I'm going to hide the leg again, H, you'll get used to it. So clicking one of the larger cubes, then click the piece you want to delete something from and press Difference. Now it looks like nothing's happened, that's because the other cubes are in the way. So if you select both the cubes, which you do by dragging over, you can see it's done cube 1 and 2, which is the larger cube that you can see and the smaller cube that's within the larger cube. So there we go, we've got a hole there anyway. So undo that. I'm going to hide, so we're not going to go Alt H to bring back the object we need to cut something out of. I'm going to hide the object that's already done. Select the larger of the two cubes, which you can see because you can't see the smaller one that's hidden beneath it. So can at least, if you drag over, you would select both of them, but if you just click that, it'll just click the one object you can actually touch, then the other leg, then Difference, and then you'll see you've got your original cube there with your tolerance. You can move that out, press Alt H to bring back your object. There we go. And then you can see both got holes. There's your dowel that you'll need to print. Rotate this leg on the y-axis so I can have a look. The sort of angles we've got rotate on the x-axis here, so everything's sort of lined up. And there we go, that's what it's going to print at. Yep, you're going to get some supports here, but that's going to be right in the crevice of his knee, which isn't going to be very visible. From the front here, if you rotate on the y, you can see how it rotated where, because it's going around this pivot point there. So set origin to geometry. Press 3, rotate on the X. You get sort of an idea that that's going to print like that, and nothing, no concerns there. So that is the kind of thinking process I go through to cut stuff up. Let's have a look. One more. Well, I'm going to have a look at this and think, what can we do to get a really good result out of here? Okay, it's this thing that's worrying me here. This sort of droopy thing printing, it's like, that's not going to print on FDM if you just print it like that very well. I mean, you could, if you get to 3, rotate on the X. 1, rotate on the Y, or Y. You could try printing something like this, but I can just see this getting a complete mess. With the Kratos one I did, if you look at that video and rotate that X, I'd cut the back kind of like that. But that meant that his chest is facing up in the air, and that's always the worst orientation for quality wise. You want the quality to sort of be vertical. So you don't see the steps, the print lines as much. Yeah, I think I'm going to do what I was originally going to do. You can always test it, can't you, and see if it works, and if it doesn't, then try something else. Actually, what if I did it on that bit there? That crease. I think that's going to be the one. And then, instead of it being just this thin, because like I said before, this has 0 thickness. If I press N to bring up the, if you ever lose the side and you just press N, you'll see that this object, an item, has 0 thickness, and that's an issue. So what you want to do, what I tend to do, well, first off, actually, if I select the torso. People always say, why don't you just edit the mesh? Well, okay, well, if you just press tab, you will go into just edit mode, but I've got this little widget here, so I have to go to edit that this way. So you will just go straight into edit mode if you press tab. If you see this, these are all the nodes. This is how detailed these amazing sculpts are. If you start editing this, for instance, if I grab a node there and I drag it, it's got that hard, and I'm pressing undo now. See, it's got like a 2-second delay. So if you're selecting a heck of a lot of stuff and editing this, it's taking ages. So if you select slag back, if you select back to object mode by just clicking tab view, for me it's holding tab and doing that little widget. It's much easier to just edit something that has like no nodes, virtually no nodes. So select this plane, going to edit. Now, if you see up here, you've got vertex, edge, and plane. So the vertex mode is all these little points. Edge is you press the hotkey. So this is 1, 2, and 3. So 2 is edge, any of the edges, and 3 is faces. So 3 is pretty decent. If I press E to extrude, I can extrude it. Usually locks on the Z axis, and that just makes you a box. So I'm wondering if the box with thickness will actually delete away from the object, delete away from his torso. So go back, tab back into object mode. When you do this though, if I was to delete the box and everything the box is in contact with from the torso, you would end up with just the top of the torso. So you need to select both, Shift D to duplicate, and then just click, and what you'll see is that you've got 2 overlapping duplicates. Control Z that. Select one cutter. It will only select, if you just click, it will select the top one. What it says is the top. If you click and drag, it will select both. So make sure you click just the top one, just the top one. Go over to 3D print. Sorry, not 3D print. Go over to edit, drop down the boolean, and click intersect. I always do intersect first. It just makes things visually easier to keep track of. And now we just wait. It's going to spin. Hopefully it doesn't crash. So let's see what it's done. Now we should. The reason we have to duplicate the cutter is when you're using this bool tool, it will delete the cutter. The torso that we had selected has been intersected with the box we had selected, and it's preserved the areas where they intersected. So if we undo those movements, now what we have left is the other original torso. We have the only remaining box. There's only one left now. So we want to go to click that, and go difference. And the box will delete the areas that we just preserved on the last Boolean exercise. So now we know if it's worked. If I select that, and yes, you can see that it has properly worked. So that's why people have said to me, why don't you just use a plane all the time? Well, I don't use planes a lot because the cubes just work. So if I wanted to add magnets, if I hide, press H. If I press Shift and right click to bring the cursor there, and went to Shift A, add a cylinder down here, we can change the parameters to cylinder. Sorry about the black box, I know it's really annoying. So if I had like an 8 by 3 magnet, so that's 8 meters, and then I think that's going to be with 3. Now that will be your magnet size. So what you want to do is, let's just, for some bizarre reason, we rotated the, okay, this is interesting. Okay, right, so you can't just place that in there because we were rotating the Spider-Man torso before we cut it, weren't we? And now this isn't aligned to this in terms of its rotation. Now you could just try and wing it, just by rotate on the Y, and then holding down Shift to go really slow. That's not too bad. There is a better way. So let's bring this up here, for instance. And it's this magnet thing. If I click down here and go to a face, align rotation to target, at first it won't do anything. But if you turn actually this magnet icon on and move it down, it will magnetize. Okay, it's gone a bit weird there because it's just picking. I don't actually know how it works, because what it's doing, it's aligning to one of the faces of this flat bit to be perfectly in line. So all you have to do then is just turn it off, bring it back to wherever you want, and it's pop, 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 perfectly aligned. Right, great. So say you just want one magnet there. So let's make a magnet hole, but we need to go up in size a little bit. If you hold down shift and quickly drag down, it'll select all of those at once, or you can do it one by one. I'm going to go with 1.02. It's gone, as you can see, it went slightly bigger. So, quick tip. Yes, it's bigger. So that it's going to be big enough to fit your magnet. And you'd be thinking, okay, well, I'll put that down there to like there. Well, actually, that's going to be a bit too deep, because you've got the tolerance at the top and the tolerance at the bottom. So your magnet will actually sit it down 2 times the tolerance, if you know what I mean. So just raise that up a tiny touch, and let's just duplicate. So we've got a copy of it. Shift D, yeah, I'll Shift D. Just don't move your mouse, else you'll move your duplicate. Just escape or just click. So now we've got 2 circles, 2 magnet holes. Click one of them, that's your cutter. Click your thing you want to be cut. Go to Edit, Difference, and then if we just turn off that, you'll see, great, we've got our magnet hole. But what about the corresponding magnet hole, I hear you ask? Let's turn on the body. We can hide this guy now, which is top or right. You can just turn off, with the I thing, or you can press H or to hide, or Alt H to bring it back. We've got the magnet here, but anybody who is paying attention, because this is slightly rotated, if I just move that up like that to make a magnet hole, it's not going to be in the same. It's actually moved slightly to the left of the hole below it because of the fact that it's rotated. What you want to do is make sure it's on the right plane. So the V, you can see the difference between the Z axis here and the rotation of the line here, the rotation of the object, you can tell just slightly off. So what you can do, just make sure I'm in the right place. What we should do here is change this from global, which is your proper left, right, up, down, to local, which is the left, right, up and down of the object itself, and then move it, and you can see it's moving on a tilt, and the tilt matches the rotation of your object. Got the object selected, that's your cutter, your object you want to keep, difference, and then if my theory is correct, my teachings are correct, if I press Alt H to bring both parts together, go to X-ray mode up here, and you will see that, there we go, both bits are exactly aligned perfectly. If I had not gone to local with the top part, it would have been shifted to the left slightly. So be mindful of that. But this is now can be printed like that. This can now rotate. Y can be printed like that. And that prints nice. That prints nice. And the seam can be connected by magnets to make things easier. Or you could just hide it in all the mess of his suit. So that was just a quick and dirty overview of my thought process and what I tried to do with FDM prints to get them a good flat bottom, to print everything in a good way to get the best detail and to make things that seem difficult to print a lot easier to print. There's a million other more difficult STLs that you can try. This was actually quite a simple one compared to like the Predator one that you've seen, hopefully seen in some of my other videos. But hopefully this is a bit of an insight to the basic sort of ways I'm doing things and what I'm thinking that you can then take and run with and see if it helps get better results for you. So if it does, let me know in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, and my Patreon is live with active Discord. So if you're struggling with anything like cutting up your model, Discord is a place to talk to me about it, and I'm going to be on there all the time. You can share stuff, ask me stuff. I'm going to help you out all the time and be there for any advice I can give. So yeah, thanks for sticking by. Go and have a look at my other videos where you'll see a lot more stuff being cut up, and hopefully it gives you some ideas how you can cut your own models up. But yeah, and I'm going to go have a cold shower because it's absolutely baking in the UK at the moment. So yeah, I'll catch you next time.